Did you know that more than 90% of you are not subscribed? Let's fix that. Those are rookie numbers. Welcome back once again to another anime review. Now, I'm gonna be honest, lately I've been really focusing on trying to get like a lot of videos recorded and edited for the channel. As of recording this video, I have like 5 to 6 other videos that are pre-recorded and ready to go. But all that to say, I haven't really had too much time to be able to watch anime. This season has had a lot that's come out that I really want to watch, but I've been sort of waiting a bit just so that there's a lot more out that I can then bulk watch once the time comes. With other anime that I'm just watching for the sake of it, I haven't had too much time to do that. But this is one of the ones that I've been neglecting for a while because I'm pretty sure altogether this probably took me about like a month or 2 to finish. Not because it's so long, but because I'm lazy and can't remember to finish it. That being this series, Banana Fish. A classic? I would say it's more of a hidden gem than a classic, because I didn't really know this until obviously doing research for this video, but the manga originally came out in 1985. So this shit only came out a year after Dragon Ball did. And it didn't get adapted until 2018. It just goes to show that people will still adapt stuff no matter how old it is. Which, now that I see that, a lot of the stuff that happens in this show makes more sense. First of all, before we get into the whole plot synopsis, this is gonna be probably more of a rant type video as opposed to a full review. I'm gonna try to keep it as a review, but there will be points where I delve into spoilers because there's certain stuff that I really want to talk about in this series, because I am coming fresh off watching it. Literally, I finished the last couple episodes last night because I just couldn't go to bed until I finished it. This first little bit, will be spoiler free, but I'll obviously put up the disclaimer once we go into more spoiler centric stuff. Either way, what is the plot of Banana Fish? Well, first of all, now it makes sense that this takes place in the mid-1980s America, in New York City specifically, which is interesting, of course, now knowing that the manga, it was released in 1985. It was a period piece, I guess, of the times. And we are following the 17-year-old gang leader known as Ash Lynx. Well, first of all, the opening episode opens with Ash's older brother Griffin, who was a Nam veteran, who after being induced by this drug called Banana Fish, is left in this vegetative state, sort of stuck in his own mind kind of thing, a prisoner in his own body. And going into the first couple episodes, it's revealed that Ash once served in many different ways under this mob boss gang leader known as Dino Golzin. He served as both an enforcer and a child sex slave, which we'll get more into that side of stuff once we go into later things, but just know, yeah, that's the kind of tone we're going for this. This show is definitely not for the faint of heart, I'll say that much. Eventually, there's these 2 Japanese photographers who come from overseas because they hear this story about Ash. Maybe they can get a good story out of it coming from overseas. And through many different things happening, this gang bar fight happens. Eiji, who is the photographer's assistant, gets roped into Ash's whole life, and pretty much the whole story of this is Ash and Eiji's growing relationship. And as I talk more about this, understand, this is not yaoi. I kind of went into this thinking that it might be, just based off the certain tones I was feeling. Yaoi meaning gay. Before we really get into spoilers, that's all I can really say. It's pretty much just Ash trying to take down this mob boss Golzin, running into different officers of him while dealing with his past, and him and Eiji's growing relationship as great friends. One of the best lines in this whole series is early on when Ash sees Eiji jump over this giant wall. The line is roughly just I envy you because you know how to fly. And also, one of the biggest things with this series is the yin and yang, I guess, or more the 2 opposites, the opposing sides of Ash and Eiji, where it's they become really good friends, but it's they both come from different worlds, basically. Both in the sense of just Ash, he's just a white kid growing up in the slums of New York as a mob gangster killer, and Eiji, who's just this guy who's trying to make a living for himself. He becomes this photographer's assistant. He was a failed athlete at one point because he suffered an injury, coming from in just the world of Japan, at least where he's from, where it's just like everything's pretty much normal. And so then, like, you know, the horrors that was the mid-80s America. It's a lot of that kind of story, like, in this show, where it's those two grappling with just like, yeah, we both come from completely different worlds. Obviously giving a lot of care and even love to Edgy, but at the same time wanting to keep him sort of at arm's length, because he knows, one, he doesn't want to get close to him because other people can use that against him, which going into later stuff they do, and also because he's never known that kind of friendship and love. And it leads to some very beautiful and almost even tear-jerking moments going into the later episodes, but again, we'll get to more of that later. Going into more of the production side of things, this was done amazingly by Studio Mappa, who of course nowadays are the GOATs. It's kind of interesting though seeing this, because I didn't initially realize it was Mappa until like I saw like some of the credits and Mappa's thing came up, and it's like, oh really? So this definitely was Mappa in more of their early days, because nowadays you could tell Mappa's style. I mean, in the show, it's obviously implied that everyone is speaking English to each other, which obviously they are because this takes place in New York City, but I'm pretty sure there's not an English dub for this. On the places where I watched it, it was never like an option for anything, so, which I'm kind of fine with, but at the same time, it's like, you kind of forget that's like, oh yeah, they're all speaking English to each other, but obviously you're watching it in Japanese. There's a line later on where Edgy is talking to Ash and he's just like, yeah, I'll teach you how to speak Japanese. You kind of have to just sort of put that aside. I'm glad that the series doesn't like do weird stuff, because sometimes in the series where it's like they go to America, our characters will magically meet somebody who knows how to speak perfect Japanese, which, yeah, I'm surprised there hasn't been a dub for it, but at the same time, I don't think there needs to be a dub for it, because I get that, like, it's not a matter of like, do we need a dub? It's because obviously dubs are made for those who are maybe more dyslexic, or like, you know, can't really read and like watch at the same time, which I get that. That's the real reason a dub serves, no matter how shit or good a dub is. If they were to do a dub for this, it would have to be like some really good voice actors, because the voice acting in this is like top notch. The animation and art, the art, I will say, for me at least, was a bit weird at times. It mainly was in like the faces. Like the faces in this show, obviously they have a very distinct style, but a lot of the times I would look at like Ash's like chin or something, it's like, holy crimson chin, boy. Ash as a character was definitely very fun and cool to watch, just because like he's just this chaos given form. Like so many times people will look at him in this show and be like, he's the devil. How he carries himself, how he just kills and whatnot. So again, it's one of those stories where Ash getting a taste of what a normal life could look like for him through interacting with Edgy, which going into the end of this series leads to more why I have a lot more to talk about. But again, we'll get to that once we get to the spoiler section. Other than Ash and Edgy, like every other character as well in this was really good, because it deals a lot with like obviously like the American like mafia stuff, but there's also like the Chinese who get involved, and like the police, and just all these different like organizations getting involved in just this chaos. Because there's also like this other side story which deals with like the Chinese mafia getting involved with Yu Lang and Sing Suling, which going into the end, it's like Sing ends up being like one of the most integral characters for some reason, which leads to like some of my complaints again, which we'll get to in the end. But there was a lot of standout characters. Unfortunately, like some of them like only serve their purpose for so long and then they just die, but it is what it is. All right, now I want to start talking about spoilers and stuff. So from this point on, we're going to discuss spoilers for Banana Fish. So if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend that you do before continuing this video, unless you just don't care, in which case you're probably not going to know a lot of what I'm going to talk about, but let's just go for it. I will definitely say the first half, not even the first half, I would say the first 20 episodes of this show are the best part of this show. Because the last 4-ish episodes get weird. Because I will say, the pacing for this show is kind of all over the place, I will say. Because there's some times where it's just like, they'll take their time with like a certain scene, but all of a sudden we'll get into the action side and it's just like, alright, we're done. Especially going into the end, man. Specifically the finale, the last episode, because no matter what I say for the remainder of this review, I will say like I enjoyed Banana Fish overall. It's just these last couple episodes were just like, what the fuck is happening? A big complaint I do kind of have with this show is, which you don't really hear me give for anything, because one of the biggest praises I'll usually give in these reviews is the music in some regard, but for this show, a complaint I have is the music. Don't get me wrong, the openings, the EDs, and some of the songs in it, like, the music is good, but it's when the music would play and how they would utilize the soundtrack. Like, there's certain scenes that are like calm, or it's like a serious moment, and there's like just this weird like techno beat in the background. And there was even points where it's just like, even I was like saying out loud, there shouldn't be music playing right here, and then it would lead to a point where it's just like, all right, now the music should play now. And then again, I'm not gonna like exclaim myself as just like a director or whatever, but it's like, I understand music to a certain extent and how it should be utilized. Again, I think the music for this show did fit the vibe. Again, it's just how it was utilized. Now, the big thing I want to talk about is the ending for this show. Not even just with this show, but just with anime and stories in general. I understand that one of the hardest things to write is an ending, especially for something that's, say, longer running. Going into the ending for this, I was like, I feel like it's pretty clear where an ending for this should go, but let's see what happens. The biggest thing for me is just, in the last 4 episodes, they introduced this one motherfucker who's like this military guy or whatever, and he ends up being the final boss. The main antagonist, Dino Golzine, it's like, he's the antagonist all the way up to the second to last episode where there, he gets shot by the guy, and it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm taking over, your purpose has been served. It's like, bro, who are you? Where have you been this entire show? And the way Dino dies, I wanted fully it to just be like an ending where Ash just comes in and beats the ever-loving shit out of this guy, rips his balls out and shoves him down his own throat. But no, it kind of ends with like this fatherly, I'm proud of you kind of look for him as he falls into the fire. Like, you spent the entire series trying to hunt Ash down, and in the end you just kind of like, yeah, mutual, we were both betrayed, I guess. The way I see it, when at the end I was like, this is how this should have gone down. Because again, going into the last episode as well, I got excited because it's like, it was a longer episode. Because normally these episodes are like 20 to 22 minutes long. But the last one was 30 minutes long. I was like, yes. The entire final battle was the first like 15 minutes of the episode. And then it was done. The final battle should have been, I'm sorry, take out this fucking military guy, or if you want to have him there, just have him be there as like an extra boss for another character to fight or something. The final boss should have been Blanca, who was Ash's teacher, who I kept calling Aizen from Bleach because that's who he reminded me of. The last fight should have been Ash and that guy fighting. I feel like it could have served the same purpose. Because if you also want to have Dino be betrayed, have him be betrayed by Blanca, because they were setting up that pretty much since he came into the story. And then maybe instead of them like killing each other, like they both come to an understanding through talking and then they fight Dino at the end. Yeah, maybe it wouldn't have been as like big and like action side of it, explosions and guns or whatever, but then also have like Edgy there, like they're all like fighting, even though I get like Ash wants to keep him out of it. Edgy's side of the story was that like, yeah, Ash didn't want him getting involved, but like he would still involve himself. Like, cause there was a point where Edgy like straight up shot Dino in the shoulder, like same way that Ash did in like the first couple episodes. Cause you could have had a moment where it's like maybe Ash is about to kill Dino and then maybe Eiji stops him, you know, because like the whole thing of this show is just Eiji like wanting Ash to get away from this life of killing, you know, come with me to Japan, you can just wipe your slate clean, you can be somewhere free. But the way this final battle goes, it's just like, it happens, they defeat the guy and that's it. No one on our side really dies. And then also going into the end, the entire name and plot of the show, the banana fish drug, it goes nowhere at the end. It's set up throughout the whole series, just this drug that can mess with your brain, make you just like stuck in this own nightmare where you can be easily controlled. And by the end, it's just like, oh yeah, all of it's in a briefcase and Ash has Sing drop it into the fire. Really? If anything, I thought maybe at some point, like maybe Eiji would get drugged with banana fish and then something, or even Ash maybe gets drugged with it. Because all it really comes from that is that Shorter, like towards the beginning, gets drugged with it and Ash has to kill him. It doesn't go anywhere. So it's like the entire title of this show, nothing happens. Like, I'm sure there's probably some videos and some people out there are just like, why the banana fish ending is a masterpiece. When we get to the final scene, sure, maybe. It was way too fast. A lot of shit happened that was set up, never occurred. And honestly, it was a mess. I'll just say that at the very end. Again, that's why I'll still say the first 20 episodes are good. Like, I still think it's a solid story for the most part. It does not stick the landing, in my opinion. The only part where it kind of does is the very, very end. The last scene in the whole series that kind of made me be like, okay, that was kind of beautiful and sad. You know, one last tearjerker to send you out. But again, this is the real part where it's just like, spoiler warning. That's another thing that kind of pissed me off. It's like Edgy and Ash never really had a final scene together. Yeah, there was the point where Ash went to the hospital, they talked real quick, but Ash had to go because the police were coming. That was the last scene they had together. After that, Ash goes and does the final battle thing, he leaves, and then they never talk again. Like, Edgy gives him this letter thing, who he gives to Sing, and then Sing gives to Ash, and like Ash is sitting down reading it, and inside the letter, it's like there's this letter that he leaves him and a plane ticket to come with him to Japan. And of course, Ash reads it and he's crying, and then as soon as he gets to the end, he stands up and starts running, and right as he starts running, he gets stabbed. Which, I don't mind that, just because earlier on, like when Edgy got shot by one of the Chinese guys, I liked that scene a lot because, you know, Ash throughout the whole show is shown he has this like this sixth sense, like he can sense people before they even take a step into the room, like he can sense like their bloodlust or whatever. But in that scene, he was so focused and had his guard just completely down around Edgy, so much so that Edgy saw the guy coming before Ash did, and so he took the bullet. So it just kind of shows just like Edgy's the only one who can really just take Ash's guard down. It comes full circle, I guess, in the end when it happens again where Ash is so focused on going to Edgy that someone comes up and stabs him. And of course, the one who stabs him is fucking Sing's like brother, or like whatever their connection was, like his friend who left before the final battle happened, who had like a grudge against Ash. I thought that that was dumb. I think it's also dumb that that's how Ash dies. It is a beautiful scene, don't get me wrong, and it's symbolic obviously because early on Ash tells the story about like the leopard who climbed to the top of a snowy mountain and died. Why did it go up there? Like it knew it was gonna die or whatever, you know, symbolizing him obviously being the lynx. And you know, it ends with that story where, you know, Ash is back in like the library chair where he always goes, and he has a smile on his face with the letter. And of course someone comes up to him and is just like, hey, you can't sleep here. It's just like, oh, it must be nice. And so it's just like, obviously he's dead. The way I looked at it is just like, really, a stab wound killed him? It's like throughout this entire show, Ash has been shot, sliced, stabbed, and he's lived. Not even showing scars, even though this kid with the life he's had, he should be riddled with scars. But no, a stab at the very end of the story. I mean, I guess you could say that like, because every time he's been stabbed or shot or whatever, he immediately gets treatment of some kind. So in this, it's like he gets stabbed and he just kind of limps away and then bleeds out eventually. It's a beautiful scene just like on its own, just in the context of the show, but just the build up to it, you know, I'm split on it really. I liked it, and I won't lie, it made me well up a little bit just with how it ended, and just of course as Edgy's flying away back to Japan. No matter how far apart we are, you'll always be like my bestest friend or whatever. That's really the bulk of what I wanted to talk about, was like the ending and just the last episode mainly. Overall though, Banana Fish I think is a fantastic show, and just a dark show really, with just obviously its subject matter dealing with child grooming and prostitution. Like, obviously, thankfully, not really showing a lot of it. A lot of it, obviously, is just told through Ash's past and him telling stories. And it's just kind of crazy, just the kind of character Ash was, where he's just, like, he's numb to it all. Like, there's so many times where, like, he just uses his body to, like, get his way. He's just used to it. A scene that was kind of, well, not cool, but, like, you know, I was like, ooh, that was a good scene, was where this female character was talking to him, and she had previously been raped in the story. She was talking just, like, it took me, like, 6 months to really get back to just being in a sound mind. Like, how did you get over it? Like, because Ash up to that point was like raped again, and he just responded just like, if it had took me that long to get over it, I would have died, because that's just the kind of life he's lived. Something happens to you, you just gotta keep up and walk. You know, it's the Captain America quote, just like, if you get killed, walk it off. It's a fantastic story. It's just, it doesn't stick the landing for me. It was a perfect flight. We started from the ground, we went up, and it was like, yeah, this is great. We're chilling at the top, and then all of a sudden we're hitting turbulence, and then it just kind of crashes and burns at the very end. But at the same time, we survive and are perfectly unscathed. The weirdest analogy I could give for that, but it's kind of how I feel about it. So overall, what would I give the anime of Banana Fish in terms of a score? When I initially logged it on Mal, I put it as a 9 out of 10, because overall I think it is a really good story. but I think for now I'm going to stick it at I'll put it at a 7.5 out of 10, because that ending really just had me not loving it. For me, really, it's like the ending of a story is almost as important as the beginning, just because there was so much setup and lack of resolution for so many plot points, and it just all just sort of happens at the end. I can't really say just like, oh, just only watch the first 20 episodes, because then it's like there's no resolution at all then. Of course, there was that part of me that's just like, would I have preferred it if the ending was how Edgy wanted it, which Ash comes with him to Japan? I thought we were gonna get kind of like a Black Lagoon thing, where like in that Revy and Rock go to Japan and Revy gets to see like this side of life that's normal. Now kind of looking back on it, this series is very similar to Black Lagoon. Of course, Black Lagoon I think is more consistently good. I mean, but it is similar in that sense, where it's just like one guy comes from Japan and is just indoctrinated into this mafia gang lifestyle and then sort of has to cope with it. But of course, I would obviously say that Edgy and Ash have a much closer relationship than Revy and Rock. No sense in comparing, even though I just did. There's a lot more that I want to talk about with this, but we'd be going tangentially to like a million different things. So for right now, I feel like I've said everything I wanted to say about it. And besides, I still need to stew on this series for a while. Like, again, it's still fairly fresh. It's very fresh. What am I talking about? I literally finished it last night. Overall, I still recommend the show. I think it's really good. I don't know how different or similar it is to the manga. Again, I gotta remember the manga came out in the 80s and the show didn't come out till 2018. So there probably might be some differences. I don't know. I have to do more research on that and look into it, but for right now I'm gonna put the close on Banana Fish in terms of my experience with it. But either way, this was my review / rant on Banana Fish. Let me know if you all have watched and what you think about Banana Fish down in the comments below, as well as go and follow me on Twitter and DM me if you maybe want to talk to me about it and maybe help me vent anything when it comes to this show, because I probably have a lot more to talk about. And join me for many other videos of the sort, be they future reviews, reactions, gameplay, and everything else that'll be coming out soon. So until next time, I'm Lancer. Thanks for watching.